Well, good morning, friends. Welcome. It's West Tennessee Dave, live to you on Twitch at 6:33 Central Time. I hope you are having a wonderful day. Good to see you. Happy Friday. TGIF, as they say. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Hello there, Johnny Wofford. Hello there, Sean Solo the Rapper. Good to see you. And good to see all of you that come to us later on the VOD to continue the journey with us. Good to see you guys. Hope you are well today. Glad to see you all. Thanks for coming and saying hello. All right, today we are going to get into the book of Judges. We're going to continue the book of Judges. We're going to read chapters 6 through 9 today. And where are we in the journey? Let's just give a little backstory recap. The Israelites have crossed over the Jordan River. They have taken the promised land through the leadership of Joshua. He passed away. And now we start what's known as the back and forth of waiting for a leader to tell us what to do. And we will listen when the leader tells us what they hear God tell us to do. And when we don't have a leader to tell us what God says to do, we kind of just do whatever the heck we want. And that is the journey the Israelites are on. And to some extent, maybe that's not far from our own lives. But let's not read into it too much yet. Today, we're going to get into Judges 6 through 9. So let's get going. Good to be here. Let's take a sip of water. Get my throat ready for the reading. All right. The Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight, so the Lord handed them over to the Midianites for 7 years. The Midianites were so cruel that the Israelites made hiding places for themselves in the mountain caves and strongholds. Whenever the Israelites planted their crops, marauders from Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east would attack Israel, camping in the land and destroying the crops as far away as Gaza. They left the Israelites with nothing to eat, taking all the sheep, goats, cattle, and donkey. These enemy hordes, coming with their livestock and tents, were as thick as locusts. They arrived on droves of camels, too numerous to count, and they stayed until the land was stripped bare. So Israel was reduced to starvation by the Midianites. Then the Israelites cried out to the Lord for help. When they cried out to the Lord because of Midian, the Lord sent a prophet to the Israelites. He said, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I brought you up out of slavery in Egypt. I rescued you from the Egyptians and from all who oppressed you. I drove out your enemies and gave you their land. I told you, I am the Lord your God. You must not worship the God of the Amorites in whose land you now live. But you have not listened to me." Then the angel of the Lord came and sat beneath the great tree at Oprah, which belonged to Joash of the clan of Abiezer. Gideon, son of Joash, was threshing wheat at the bottom of the winepress to hide the grain from the Midianites. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, "Mighty hero, the Lord is with you." "Sir," Gideon replied, "if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? And where are all the miracles of our ancestors told us about? Didn't they say, 'The Lord brought us up out of Egypt'? But now the Lord has abandoned us and handed us over to the Midianites." Then the Lord turned to him and said, "Go with the strength you have and rescue Israel from the Midianites. I am sending you." "But Lord," Gideon replied, "how can I rescue Israel? My clan is the weakest in the whole tribe of Manasseh, and I am the least in my entire family." The Lord said to him, "I will be with you, and you will destroy the Midianites as if you were fighting against one man." Gideon replied, if you are truly going to help me, show me a sign to prove that it is really the Lord speaking to me. Don't go away until I come back and bring my offering to you." He answered, "I will stay here until you return." Gideon hurried home. He cooked a young goat, and with a basket of flour he baked some bread without yeast. Then, carrying the meat in a basket and the broth in a pot, he brought them out and presented them to the angel who was under the great tree. The angel of God said to him, "Place the meat and the unleavened bread on this rock, and pour the broth over it. Then Gideon did as he was told. The angel of the Lord touched the meat and the bread with the tip of the staff in his hand, and fire flamed up from the rock and consumed all he had brought. And the angel of the Lord disappeared. When Gideon realized that it was the angel of the Lord, he cried out, "Oh, sovereign Lord, I'm doomed! I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face." "It is all right," the Lord replied. "Do not be afraid. You will not die." And Gideon built an altar to the Lord there and named it Yahweh Shalom, which means the Lord is peace. The altar remains in Ophrah in the land of the clan of Abiezer to this day. That night the Lord said to Gideon, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one that is 7 years old. Pull down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole standing beside it. Then build an altar to the Lord, your God, here on this hilltop sanctuary, laying the stones carefully. Sacrifice the bull as a burnt offering on the altar, using as fuel the wood of the Asherah pole you cut down." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord had commanded. But he did it at night because he was afraid of the other members of his father's household and the people of the town. Early the next morning, as the people of the town began to stir, someone discovered that the altar of Baal had been broken down and that the Asherah pole beside it had been cut down. In their place, a new altar had been built, and on it were the remains of the bull that had been sacrificed. The people said to each other, "Who did this?" And after asking around and making a careful search, they learned that it was Gideon, son of Joash. "Bring out your son," the men of the town demanded of Joash. "He must die for destroying the altar of Baal and cutting down the Asherah pole." But Joash shouted to the mob that confronted him, "Why are you defending Baal? Will you argue his case? Whoever pleads his case will be put to death by morning. If Baal truly is a god, let him defend himself and destroy the one who broke down his altar." From then on, Gideon was called Jerubbaal, which means, "Let Baal defend himself," because he broke down Baal's altar. Soon afterward, the armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people of the east formed an alliance against Israel and crossed the Jordan, camping in the valley of Jezreel. Then the Spirit of the Lord clothed Gideon with power. He blew a ram's horn as a call to arms, and the men of the clan of Abiezer came to him. He also sent messengers throughout Manasseh, Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, summoning their warriors, and all of them responded. Then Gideon said to God, "If you are truly going to use me to rescue Israel as you promised, prove it to me in this way. I will put a wool fleece on the threshing floor tonight. If the fleece is wet with the dew in the morning, but the ground is dry, then I will know that you are going to help me rescue Israel as you promised." And that is just what happened. When Gideon got up the next morning, he squeezed the fleece and wrung out a whole beautiful bowl of water. Then Gideon said to God, "Please don't be angry with me again, but let me make one more request. Let me use the fleece one more time for a test. This time, let the fleece remain dry while the ground around it is wet with dew." So that night God did as Gideon asked. The fleece was dry in the morning, but the ground was covered with dew. So Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and his army got up early and went as far as the spring of Harod. The armies of Midian were camped north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, "You have too many warriors with you. If I let all of you fight the Midianites, Israelites will boast to me that they saved themselves by their own strength. Therefore, tell the people, whoever is timid and afraid may leave this mountain and go home." So 22,000 of them went home, leaving only 10,000 who were willing to fight. But the Lord told Gideon, "There are still too many. Bring them down to the spring, and I will test them to determine who will go with you and who will not." When Gideon took his waters down to the water, the Lord told him, "Divide the men into 2 groups. In one group put all those who cup water in their hands and lap it up with their tongues like dogs. In the other group put all those who kneel down and drink with their mouths in the stream." Only 300 of the men drank from their hands. All the others got down on their knees and drank with their mouths in the stream. The Lord told Gideon, "With these 300 men, I will rescue you and give you victory over the Midianites. Send all the others home." So Gideon collected the provision and ram's horns of the other warriors and sent them home, but he kept the 300 men with him. The Midianite camp was in the valley just below Gideon. That night the Lord said, "Get up, go down into the Midianite camp, for I have given you victory over them. But if you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant Purah. Listen to what the Midianites are saying, and you will be greatly encouraged. Then you will be eager to attack." So Gideon took Purah and went down to the edge of the enemy camp. The armies of Midian, Amalek, and the people east had settled in the valley like a swarm of locusts. Their camels were like grains of sand on the seashore, too many to count. Gideon crept up just as the man was telling his companion about a dream. The man said, "I had this dream, and in my dream a loaf of barley bread came tumbling down into the Midianite camp. It hit a tent, turned it over, and knocked it flat." His companion answered, "Your dream can mean only one thing. God has given Gideon, son of Joash, the Israelite, victory over Midian and all its allies." When Gideon heard the dream and its interpretation, he bowed in worship before the Lord. Then he returned to the Israelite camp and shouted, "Get up, for the Lord has given you victory over the Midianite hordes." He divided the 300 men into 3 groups and gave each man a ram's horn and a clay jar with a torch in it. Then he said to them, "Keep your eyes on me. When I come to the edge of the camp, do just as I do. As soon as I and those with me blow the ram's horns, you blow your horns too, all around the entire camp, and shout, 'For the Lord and for Gideon.'" It was just after midnight, after the changing of the guard, when Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the Midianite camp. Suddenly they blew the ram's horns and broke their clay jars. Then all 3 groups blew their horns and broke their jars. They held the blazing torches in their left hands and the horns in their right hands, and they all shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Each man stood at his position around the camp and watched as all the Midianites rushed around in a panic, shouting as they ran to escape. When the 300 Israelites blew their ram's horns, the Lord caused the warriors in the camp to fight against each other with their swords. Those who were not killed fled to places as far away as Beth Shittah near Zerahah, and to the border of Abel Meholah near Tabbath. Then Gideon sent for the warriors of Naphtali, Asher, and Manasseh, who joined in chasing the army of Midian. Gideon also sent messengers throughout the hill country of Ephraim, saying, "Come down to attack the Midianites. Cut them off at the shallow crossings of the Jordan River at Beth Barah." So all the men of Ephraim did as they were told. They captured Oreb and Zeb, the 2 Midianite commanders, killing Oreb at the rock of Oreb, and Zeb at the winepress of Zeb. And they continued to chase the Midianites. Afterwards, the Israelites brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon, who was by the Jordan River. Then the people of Ephraim asked Gideon, "Why have you treated us this way? Why didn't you send for us when you first went out to fight the Midianites?" And they argued heatedly with Gideon. But Gideon replied, "What have I accomplished compared to you? Aren't even the leftover grapes of Ephraim's harvest better than the entire crop of my little clan of Abiezer? God gave you victory over Oreb and Zeb, the commanders of the Midianite army. What have I accomplished compared to that?" When the men of Ephraim heard Gideon's answer, their anger subsided. Gideon then crossed the Jordan River with his 300 men, and though exhausted, they continued to chase the enemy. When they reached Succoth, Gideon asked the leaders of the town, "Please, give my warriors some food. They are very tired. I am chasing Zebah and Zalmunna, the kings of Midian." But the officials of Succoth replied, "Catch Zebah and Zalmunna first, and then we will feed your army." So Gideon said, "After the Lord gives me victory over Zebah and Zalmunna, I will return and tear your flesh with the thorns and briars from the wilderness." From there, Gideon went up to Peniel and asked for food, but he got the same answer. So he said to the people of Peniel, "After I return in victory, I will tear down this tower." By this time, Zebah and Zalmunna were in Kekor with about 15,000 warriors, all that remained of the allied armies of the east. for the 120,000 had already been killed. Gideon circled around by the caravan route east of Nobah and Jogbehah, taking the Midianite army by surprise. Zebah and Zalmunna, the two Midianite kings, fled, but Gideon chased them down and captured all their warriors. After this, Gideon returned from the battle by the way of Heres Pass. There he captured a young man from Succoth and demanded that he write down the names of all the 77 officials and elders in the town. Gideon then returned to Succoth and said to the leaders, "Here are Zebah and Zalmunna. When we were here before, you taunted me, saying, 'Catch Zebah and Zalmunna first, and then we will feed your exhausted army.' Then Gideon took the elders of the town and taught them a lesson, punishing them with thorns and briars from the wilderness. He also tore down the tower of Peniel and killed all the men in the town. Then Gideon asked Zebah and Zalmunna, the men you killed at Tabor, what were they like?" "Like you," they replied. "They all had the look of a king's son." "They were my brothers, the sons of my own mother," Gideon exclaimed. "As surely as the Lord lives, I wouldn't kill you if you hadn't killed them." Turning to Jether, his oldest son, he said, "Kill them." But Jether did not draw his sword. He was only a boy and was afraid. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said to Gideon, "Be a man. Kill us yourself." So Gideon killed them both and took their royal ornaments from their necks of their camels. Then the Israelites said to Gideon, "Be our ruler. You and your son and your grandson will be our rulers, for you have rescued us from Midian." But Gideon replied, "I will not rule over you, nor will my son. The Lord will rule over you. However, I do have one request, that each of you give me an earring from the plunder you collected from the fallen enemies." The enemies, being Ishmaelites, all wore gold earrings. "Gladly," they replied. They spread out a cloak, and each one of them threw in a gold earring he had gathered from the plunder. The weight of the gold earrings was 43 pounds, not including the royal ornaments and pendants, the purple clothing worn by the kings of Midian, or the chains around the necks of the camels. Gideon made a sacred ephod from the gold and put it in Orpah, in his hometown. But soon all the Israelites prostituted themselves by worshiping it, and it became a trap for Gideon and his family. That is the story of how the people of Israel defeated Midian, which never recovered. Throughout the rest of Gideon's lifetime, about 40 years, there was peace in the land. Then Gideon, son of Joash, returned home. He had 70 sons born to him, for he had many wives. He also had a concubine in Shechem, who gave birth to a son, whom he named Abimelech. Gideon died when he was very old, and he was buried in the grave of his father Joash at Orpah in the land of the clan of Abiezer. As soon as Gideon died, the Israelites prostituted themselves by worshipping the images of Baal, making Baal-Berith their god. They forgot the Lord their God, who had rescued them from all their enemies surrounding them, nor did they show any loyalty to the family of Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, despite all the good he had done for Israel. One day, Gideon's son Abimelech went to Shechem to visit his uncles, his mother's brothers. He said to them and to the rest of his mother's family, "Ask the leading citizens of Shechem whether they want to be ruled by all 70 of Gideon's sons or by one man. And remember that I am your own flesh and blood." So Abimelech's uncles gave his message to all the citizens of Shechem on his behalf. And after listening to this proposal, the people of Shechem decided it was in favor of Abimelech because he was their relative. They gave him 70 silver coins from the temple of Baal-Berith, which he used to hire some reckless troublemakers who agreed to follow him. He went to his father's home at Orpah, and there, on one stone, they killed all 70 of his brothers, the sons of Gideon. But the youngest brother, Jotham, escaped and hid. Then the leading citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo called a meeting under the oak beside the pillar at Shechem and made Abimelech their king. When Jotham heard about this, he climbed to the top of Mount Gerizim and shouted, "Listen to me, citizens of Shechem. Listen to me if you want God to listen to you. Once upon a time, the trees decided to choose a king. First, they said to the olive tree, 'Be our king.' But the olive tree refused, saying, 'Should I quit producing the olive oil that blesses both God and people? just to wave back and forth over the trees? Then they said to the fig tree, 'You be our king.' But the fig tree also refused, saying, 'Should I quit producing my sweet fruit just to wave back and forth over the trees?' Then they said to the grapevine, 'You be our king.' But the grapevine also refused, saying, 'Should I quit producing the wine that cheers both God and people just to wave back and forth over the trees?' Then all the trees finally turned to the thorn bush and said, 'Come, you be our king.' And the thorn bush replied to the trees, 'If you truly want to make me your king, come and take shelter in my shade. If not, let fire come out from me and devour the cedars of Lebanon.'" Jotham continued, "Now make sure you have acted honorably and in good faith by making Abimelech your king, and that you have done right by Gideon and all of his descendants. Have you treated him with the honor he deserves for all he accomplished? For he fought for you and risked his life when he rescued you from the Midianites. But today you have revolted against my father and his descendants, killing his 70 sons on one stone. And you have chosen his slave woman's son, Abimelech, to be your king just because he is your relative. If you have acted honorably and in good faith toward Gideon and his descendants today, then may you find joy in Abimelech, and may he find joy in you. But if you have not acted in good faith, then may fire come out from Abimelech and devour the leading citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo, and may the fire come out of the citizens of Shechem and Beth Millo and devour Abimelech." Then Jotham escaped and lived in Beer because he was afraid of his brother Abimelech. After Abimelech had ruled over Israel for 3 years, God sent a spirit that stirred up trouble between Abimelech and the leading citizens of Shechem, and they revolted. God was punishing Abimelech for murdering Gideon's 70 sons and the citizens of Shechem for supporting him in this treachery of murdering his brothers. The citizens of Shechem set an ambush for Abimelech on the hilltops and robbed everyone who passed that way. But someone warned Abimelech about their plot. One day, Gal, son of Ebed, moved to Shechem with his brothers and gained the confidence of the leading citizens of Shechem. During the annual harvest festival at Shechem, held in the temple of the local god, the wine flowed freely, and everyone began cursing Abimelech. "Who is Abimelech?" Gal shouted. "He's not a true son of Shechem, so why should we be his servants? He's merely the son of Gideon, and this Zubal is merely his deputy. Serve the true sons of Hamor, the son of Shechem. Why should we serve Abimelech? If I were in charge here, I would get rid of Abimelech. I would say to him, 'Get some soldiers and come out and fight.'" But when Zubal, the leader of the city, heard what Gal was saying, he was furious. He sent messengers to Abimelech in Arumah, telling him, "Gal, son of Ebed, and his brothers have come to live in Shechem, and now they are inciting the city to rebel against you. Come by night with an army and hide out in the fields. In the morning, as soon as it is daylight, attack the city. When Gal and those who are with him come out against you, you can do with them as you wish." So Abimelech and all his men went by night and split into 4 groups, stationing themselves around Shechem. Gal was standing at the city gates when Abimelech and his army came out of hiding. When Gal saw them, he said to Zubal, "Look, there are people coming down from the hilltops." Zubal replied, "It is just the shadows on the hills that look like men." But again Gal said, "No, people are coming down from the hills, and another group is coming down the road past the diviner's oak." Then Zubal turned on him and asked, "Now where is that big mouth of yours? Wasn't it you that said, 'Who is Abimelech? And why should we be his servants?' The men you mocked are right outside the city. Go out and fight them." So Gal led the leading citizens of Shechem into battle against Abimelech. But Abimelech chased him, and many of Shechem's men were wounded and fell along the road as they retreated to the city gate. Abimelech returned to Arumah, and Zubal drove Gal and his brothers out of Shechem. The next day, the people of Shechem went out into the fields to battle. When Abimelech heard about it, he divided his men into 3 groups and set an ambush in the fields. When Abimelech saw the people coming out of the city, he and his men jumped up from their hiding places and attacked them. Abimelech and his group stormed the city gate to keep the men of Shechem from getting back in, while Abimelech's other 2 groups cut them down in the fields. The battle went on all day before Abimelech finally captured the city. He killed the people, leveled the city, and scattered salt all over the ground. When the leading citizens who lived in the tower of Shechem heard what had happened, they ran and hid in the temple of Baal Berith. Someone reported to Abimelech that the citizens had gathered in the temple, so he led his forces to Mount Zalmon. He took an axe and chopped some branches from a tree, then put them on his shoulder. "Quick, do as I have done," he told his men. So each of them cut down some of the branches. Following Abimelech's example, they piled the branches against the wall of the temples and set them on fire. So all the people who had lived in the tower of Shechem died, about 1,000 men and women. Then Abimelech attacked the town of Thebez and captured it. But there was a strong tower inside the town, and all the men and women, the entire population, fled to it. They barricaded themselves in and climbed up to the roof of the tower. Abimelech followed them to attack the tower, but as he prepared to set fire to the entrance, a woman on the roof dropped a millstone that landed on Abimelech's head and crushed his skull. He quickly said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and kill me. Don't let it be said that a woman killed Abimelech." So the young man ran him through with his sword, and he died. When Abimelech's men saw that he was dead, they disbanded and returned to their homes. In this way, God punished Abimelech for the evil he had done against his father by murdering his 70 brothers. God also punished the men of Shechem for all their evil. So the curse of Jotham, the son of Gideon, was fulfilled. Okay, that is our story for today. Oh, the story of Gideon and his sons. Such a unique story in the Bible. And I love the opening part of this story of God calling Gideon. And we will see this kind of back and forth all the time. But for so many encounters with God, people have these encounters with God, and they have this angel of the Lord appear to them and tell them to do something. And oftentimes, their response, we saw this back in the day with Moses, and we see this with others, is like, "Why are you choosing me? I'm not the guy for the job." So God just calls generally the person that seems maybe least likely at first. They're not confident that they can do this thing. And God knows. God knows all that. So maybe you're not confident in something that you feel like God wants you to do. It's okay. That means you're probably in the perfect place. You're in the perfect place to hear from God, to listen, and to become. And then Gideon does all these things. Like, he does 4 different things actually, to prove that this is really it. First, he brings an offering and a sacrifice, and God just flames it up by touching it with the staff, and then Gideon knows, and he freaks out. And this is a really common thing when people see the angel of the Lord. They just freak out, like, "Oh, I'm dead, I've seen the angel of the Lord." Like, they just don't want to see the angel of the Lord. It's just like ingrained in them. If they see the angel of the Lord, they're gonna die. And maybe there's some merit to it, that thinking. If they know the Passover story, the angel of the Lord passed over people because of a sacrifice with the blood, but then killed the firstborn in Egypt. So we have this precedent of, if the angel of the Lord visits, it might be the end. But if the angel of the Lord's talking to you and trying to have relation with you and give you a task to do, You think that he wants to kill you? I mean, they just don't think that way. It's just the angel Lord must be very frightening. And then the things that he does to prove himself seem frightening just as well. So he gets one confirmation, then he's like, starts to get his people. He gets like 30,000 troops, and God cuts it down to 300. And if you weren't confident before, like at least 30,000 people would make you a little more confident. But he's like, nah, 300's enough. 300's enough, right? And some of you guys are poker players and you've been around, and it's like, a $30,000 bankroll is much better than a $300 bankroll. But he's like, nah, 300's fine. You'll do fine. Let's go. It'll do. It's cut down to size, but and he's like, if this is really what you want, God, just you gotta have to show me. I'm gonna put the fleece on the ground, and you gotta do the opposite of what's gonna normally happen. If there's dew on the ground, I want the thing to be dry, and if there's no dew on the ground, I want the thing to be wet. That's what happens. And he still knows. He still knows that Gideon's kind of scary. He's like, go down to the camp and listen. And then this dream is interpreted, and he's like, all right. I can't. I've asked 4 times, man. At some point, you just have to go with what he said. He's given you ample evidence that this is what he's doing. And they don't even have to fight. They just blow their ram's horns, and basically the armies kill each other because they're in terror. That's so cool. Just like they don't even draw swords at the beginning. They just blow a ram's horn. And the ways of God are so weird sometimes. They're so weird. They're so different. And the rescue of people looks very strange. And we're going to see this over and over again. We saw this already with the taking of Jericho, with them marching around in silence, and then on the 7th day marching around 7 times and screaming, and the walls fell down. We see just weird strategies from God that nobody could really come up with on their own. But God is in the business of doing these weird things to get our attention, and so that we know, like as he said in this book, that people won't take credit themselves, but they'll have to trust that God is in it and God's fighting for them. And so that's the main theme that we want to take from this. God is fighting for us. And so who are our enemies? What are our enemies? What are our enemies today? Those are good questions, because we see the world at war. We see the world at war right now. Those of us who live in the States, we see the world at war with Iran. And we have to ask ourselves, is Iran our enemy? I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that. But the concept of war reminds us that we're supposed to be at war. We're supposed to be at war with the things that enslave us. Okay? And I don't think Iran is enslaving America. I don't think so. But so what enslaves us individually? What are the things that we worship? That's the first part that Gideon has to deal with. He has to tear down these false things that we worship. The Asherah pole, the gods of Baal. Um, the same is true for us. We have to tear down the things that we worship that are not of God. What are they? What are they? Because we really can't do what God wants us to when we allow ourselves to worship something else. And we see this even at the end of Gideon's story. After he's successful, like he gets all this gold and then he, you know, melts it all down and it becomes an idol basically. It becomes this, he's trying to make it a memorial, but then people start to worship this golden image that was crafted, whatever it is, right? People just constantly worship that which is made versus that which is God. They worship the things that are made versus that which is the maker. Right? So let's think about things that are made in this world today. Think about if we worship them or not. Do we bow down and worship TVs, television shows? Do we bow down and worship meals that we eat? Do we bow down and worship beer and wine? Do we bow down and worship our phones and that which we get to do on them? Man, these are tough questions to ask. And it's tough, maybe some tough things that we need to think about as we go forward today. What are we truly worshiping and giving our hearts to? What are we giving our hearts to? That's what it comes down to. That is the question that we have to ask. And then we might have to do some hard work of warring against that. Now, I bet most of you in America aren't giving your heart to Iran. So, Iran's probably not your personal enemy. Iran's probably not enslaving the majority of you that watch this. What is yours? Figure that out and war against it. Try to deal with it so that it is not the thing you give your heart over to. Maybe that's affirmation at your work. Maybe that's you just give yourself over to try to make your kids like you if you're a parent. I don't know. There's a lot of things. So, a lot of things to think about, a lot of things to try to um, just pick our brains of what is it that we give ourselves over to. And maybe it's just comfort, things of comfort that we give ourselves over to. Man, I used to love to just eat a nice little snack before I went to bed and just to comfort myself, maybe after a long session or whatever else. It's not the greatest. It's not the greatest. I'm trying to work against that. I'm fighting against it. It's hard. It's hard. Hard to break those habits we have. Okay, I guess I'm going to end it there. Thank you for listening today. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And I hope you just have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. I will be back with you Sunday for the next part of the journey. Gideon is no longer going to be ruling over this group. Obviously, he's dead, and his sons as well. So there'll probably be some back and forth again because that's what happens. We make progress, we get rid of something, and for a season, we do well. But when we rely on somebody else to tell us to do these things, when they're gone, have we really accomplished it for ourselves? And so as you leave today, I might encourage you to do something, but you have to do it. You have to become the master of your domain. You have to know what you're allowing in your life. And if you don't want it anymore, you have to war against it. You have to war against it, not me. So, okay, I know I said I was done. I'm done. I'll be back for the next battle and leadership of the judges. And until then, have a great weekend. See you guys on Sunday.